I'm here to talk to you guys about transitioning, like transitioning from preschool to elementary to middle school and then to high school. And then we like to say post high school, but life after high school. Now, there's some things as your child goes through education, their educational process from preschool to high school, that you may want to understand. One is a self contained environment. It's basically where they're getting most of their core academics, reading, language arts, science, and social studies in one room. Now, sometimes they may leave out, basically, depending on what their schedule looks like and if they how much time they can handle in a general education environment. But self contained is just mostly in the same room the majority of the day. Then you have the resource and inclusion, where you may come to the resource classroom to get some help, or you may be in another classroom getting supported by a teacher, and you're still in your general education environment. Every year, annually, everyone has an IEP meeting, and that IEP meeting is going to go over goals, previous goals, what's been mastered, your new goals, is there any regression, testing. All of those things are important, and that's every year in annual art around the same date, usually. Now, when your child is transitioning from, let's say, preschool to elementary, you may want to just kind of give your child the opportunity to look at that kindergarten classroom that they're going to, because it's going to be a little different, and it may be in a different building. So I know it's COVID now, so maybe there's a chance that you can do a virtual tour or things like that. But those tours and being able to meet the teacher, the person who's going to be their teacher for the next school year, is very important. And also, when you go to these meetings that are discussing about IEPs and goals and progress, don't get intimidated, because there's a lot of people sitting around the table and sometimes they're spitting out big words. Write your questions down and ask them confidently, because you're your child's biggest advocate. So don't get overwhelmed with all of the paperwork and everything that they're giving you. Just know that you're your child's biggest advocate, and always stay involved. And just, if you have questions, write them down, ask, email your teacher, stay in constant contact, because by staying in constant contact, that's how you're going to get the best education for your child. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start with preschool, which is always a fun area to start. And entering preschool, your child, of course, is going to go through a series of tests, and the tests are going to be there to help determine diagnosis and the placement for your child for that upcoming preschool school year. Now, for most instances, whenever you have an IEP or an ARD meeting, it can be called either one. IEP is Individualized Education Plan, and ARD means admission, review, and dismissal. So with either one of those meetings, it's going to be determined what is going to be the best placement for your child. Exiting preschool and going to elementary, you're going to have IEP goals, an individualized education plan. You're going to receive a copy of the IEP about 3 days before the meeting, and then during the meeting, the team will discuss and decide the best placement for your child for kindergarten. So during this time, they're going to discuss progress, regression, just anything that they can do to try to help your child. So during this time, this is when you ask your questions and present your concerns, and make sure that they're discussed and addressed, because remember, you're the biggest advocate for your child. Now, when going into elementary school, it's basically like we've talked before in the previous slides. An IEP meeting is going to be held usually at the end of the pre-K school year or during the annual art, and it would also be before the end of the pre-K school year. And of course, you're going over these, and you're going to see these over and over on your slides. progress on previous IEP goals, new IEP goals, current and future testing, and academic placement. Those are some of the big things to remember when you're transitioning throughout your years in school, throughout, when your child is going through their years in school. These are some of the big things that you've got to have. And when you're leaving elementary school, make sure that you have your questions ready for the ARD meeting. And a special education student, when leaving elementary school and going to middle school, of course, there's the ARD and the IEP meeting to discuss that transitioning period to middle school. At the meeting, along with current elementary staff, there's going to be an administrator from the middle school and a teacher from the middle school in attendance. Make sure you have your questions or concerns ready to be addressed. They're going to go over the progress from previous IEP goals, new IEP goals, current and future testing, academic placement. You're going to if you have a behavior plan, you're going to talk about how is the middle school going to be able to accommodate with this behavior plan. What provisions are they going to make in place to make sure that this transition is easy? So you want to ask your questions, and like I say, if you have any concerns about your child's behavior, accommodations, and modifications, you want to know how can the middle school help make this transition easier, and how can they help accommodate for your child from coming from elementary to middle school to make this easier. And one thing that you can do, like I mentioned before about the tour, you can see if you can do a virtual tour, because I know it's COVID, or see if you can do a Zoom with your child's teacher, so it just won't be such a shock on the first day. Okay. Now, going to middle school. Let's go to middle school. Okay, so entering middle school, of course, this right here, the progress in previous IEP goals and things like that, that's consistent. But this meeting is usually held before the end of the 5th or 6th grade school year, depending on when the students in your state leave elementary. Some students leave elementary in 5th grade, some leave in 6th grade. So during this meeting, they're going to discuss things just like in the previous slide. We're going to discuss behavior, accommodations, how to make that transition go smoothly, what type of assistance are they going to need during the day, just so they can be successful. And it's important to ask those questions to the teacher. Make sure your diagnostician who facilitates the ARD is always going to talk about the least restrictive environment, like the least amount of support they need to be successful, because you don't want to overdo it. You want to make sure they have enough support so they can be successful and they can still have the independence as well. And so when entering high school, a special education student is going to go to high school. There is an ARD and IEP meeting to discuss transitioning to high school. And at this meeting, you're going to see plenty of people around the table. Remember, do not get intimidated. Have your questions ready to ask. How are they going to be able to help your child has an easy transition? As far as participating in extracurricular activities, your child should still be able to do that. You're going to also go over progress on previous goals, the new goals, current and future testing, and academic placement. But just still, as far as with entering high school, and like I said before, I know it's COVID, make for sure that you can at least get a virtual tour, or you take your child on the website so they can get some ideas of who their teacher is going to look like. Maybe they can have a chance to Zoom and meet their teacher and have a conversation, and you can ask some questions. Just anything that you can possibly think of to help make this transition a lot easier, because that's what we want, is to make this transition as easy as possible. And when they're meet the teacher nights and things like that, if you can attend, great. Like I say, I know it's COVID, not sure if too many schools are doing that right now, but whatever you can do to make the transition easier, drive around, drive by the schools, say, hey, this is your school, let's take a look, let's get out, let's walk around the outside, let's go on the field, just so they can be comfortable. Okay. Let's go to high school. Okay, so when entering, when a special education a special education student is leaving middle school and going to high school, of course you have your ARD and IEP meetings that we talked about before, but this is going to discuss transitioning to high school. And at the meeting, along with the current staff, there'll be an administrator there, and a teacher from the middle school will be there in attendance. And usually this meeting is held before even going to high school. So a lot of this stuff was covered in the previous slide. And just remember all of the things about the IEPs, current and future placement, current and future testing, academic placement. Throughout high school, though, you're going to work closely with your child's case manager and transition specialist to determine the best plan for your child. So what this is going to do is give them a chance to go out into the community, hopefully, and see if they like certain jobs, give them experience as far as learning how to purchase things at your local Walmart or stores, giving them those academic life skills that they're going to need once they leave high school to be successful. And make sure that you're doing those things also. When you go to the store, give them an opportunity to pay or talk to the cashier or to interact or to look at the list and check it off as you go through the store of what you need, because those academic life skills are going to be very important on determining what's going to happen post high school. So you'll be working closely with your transition specialist. Now, leaving high school, of course, there's going to be an IEP meeting that's going to be held, and it's usually held before the end of your senior year. And this is the annual IEP meeting. And during this meeting, the IEP team is going to discuss progress on previous IEP goals, new IEP goals, current testing, and they're going to review the FIE, and that's the Functional Individualized Education Plan. I'm sorry, the FIE, the Functional Individualized Evaluation. Sorry about that. And so in that Functional Individualized Evaluation, it basically is going to discuss your child's diagnosis in a lot of detail. It's going to give information on how your child did in testing, how they answered questions, and it's just going to also tell, hey, do they still qualify for special needs services? Do they need as much services as they were getting before? Can we cut back? It's going to give goal recommendations. So you're going to need that packet when leaving high school. Now, an individual with special needs can stay in high school until they're 21. Now, all depending upon the individual. Some individuals stay until they're 21 and then they go to an adult center. And usually most school districts have an adult center where it's set up like a little apartment, and it's basically all working on functional life skills. They're teaching them how to go look for jobs, how to maintain an apartment. Some adult centers, they have little apartments set up on the inside, and it gives them practice on, hey, this is how you make your bed, this is how you clean the floors, this is how you keep up your apartment, check to see what food you have, what groceries, have you done your laundry. All of those academic skills are usually things that are taught at the adult center. Now, some of our special ed kiddos do attend college. So you're going to take your functional individualized evaluation with you whenever you go to apply at a community college or university. It just all depends on the individual and where they're starting out. And just make for sure when you do go to enroll in a college or a community college or a university, that you take that and you register with the disability services. So when you register with the disability services, they'll be able to look at your functional individualized plan and see what accommodations that you had while you were in school. They don't make modifications in college, but they will make accommodations. And accommodations would be something like sit in close proximity to instruction, having the instructor restate or reread the questions to you, things like that, giving you extra time on a test. So just make for sure you have your IEPs or your FIE with you with enrolling in college.